Hello, welcome to a slightly flustered Forest focus, at least on my part. I just got stuck in terrible traffic, so that's why we're late. So apologies before we start. But Nottingham Forest have beaten Leeds 3-1, a massive Premier League win heading into the international break. Looking forward to discussing it in full in the company of first of all, Paul Morley. Paul, evening, how are you?
I'm feeling great, mate. Feeling great. Excellent 3 points, followed by an excellent roast chicken Sunday dinner, which I know was the topic of conversation earlier in the week on the pod. So yeah, feeling good.
Good. James Belshaw, what's your favourite Sunday roast?
Oh, I like a roast beef, me. I go roast beef every time. I haven't got one today, unfortunately. But no, I do like a roast beef.
Good. Well, it's good to have you with us, Harrogate keeper James Belshaw, de facto Forest fan, not a Forest fan at all, but a friend of this podcast certainly. So good to have him with us. Paul, kick us off. General thoughts on what you made of it, and then we'll branch out as ever.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of it at the end in terms of when was the last time that a win felt as important as this. And I know, obviously, all the way through last year, the wins felt great. When you kind of look back and reflect on it, like every win was kind of a bit of a bonus last year. And you know, had we ended up not having such a great season in the grand scheme of things, in the context, would any of those wins have been, you know, really bad not to have sort of achieved, if you see what I mean. Obviously we ended up qualifying for Europe quite comfortably in the end. And I'm thinking back to probably Sheffield United away in the season where we had a points deduction, we won 3-1 towards the end of the season to really sort of kind of put ourselves in a position of relative safety. And it kind of feels like, from a context of if we hadn't won today, how it would have felt. It almost feels like it's arguably the most important win for 18 months. So, yeah, look, at times it wasn't the most comfortable, wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing, but I'm sure we'll come on to it. But a lot of credit for the manager for the subs that he made and the impact that had. And ultimately, I guess 3-1 feels like a relatively comfortable win in the end, and I think it was deserved. But yeah, massive 3 points, and does a lot for the confidence going into the international break, and hopefully what it kind of breeds after that when we come back in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you very much, Robert Beveridge, for the $5. Appreciate that, and appreciate Bonjuk being a member for a month. What a day indeed. We spoke about briefly what it feels like to the fans' belly. Obviously, players are as human as we are. What's it going to mean to them in the dressing room?
I think it'll be a massive confidence booster. I think there's been so much disruption amongst obviously the managerial situation over the past few weeks, and that will impact players. It'll impact players who certain players would have been happy with Nuno, certain players have been happy with Ange, and now you've got Sean Dyche in. So players are still sort of understanding the way that Sean Dyche wants to manage, the way that he wants to run his sessions. But I think it was a I thought it was a good performance from Forest. I think I was at the Brentford game, the first game of the season, and it sort of felt like that, really. I think Forest were very comfortable, especially in the first half. The Leeds goal comes against the run of play. But as a group of players going forward, they can take massive confidence in this, because I think had Forest not got 3 points in that game today, with West Ham's sort of recent upturn in form, and it could start to look a bit treacherous, and I think there could be, I think it could have been realizations of what this season could potentially be for Forest. So I think it's a really important win, but one that I thought Forest were extremely good value for, and for the majority of the game, I thought were relatively comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the table in front of me. Honestly, I couldn't have faced 2 weeks of this podcast if we'd lost the game. I would have done it, but if we'd lost or drawn, it would have been grim, Paul. Now the table, 9 points, which isn't great still, but 2 points behind Fulham. I mean, only 3 points behind Newcastle. Obviously, they're going to climb, but that psychological difference is massive going into. And we'll discuss another bracket of games, but a really interesting bracket of games the other side of the international break.
Yeah, huge. As I said before, it feels massive. It feels so vital for the confidence of now having 2 weeks to obviously not stew on a difficult result or poor result, like you say. I think in terms of where we're at now, I mean, the results yesterday kind of, I think, went for us. I know some people were saying we'd be better off if West Ham and Burnley had drawn, but I think that just sort of concertines it all up. And now, I don't know, I've not looked at the bookies odds. They're normally pretty spot on. I'd imagine that Wolves and obviously Wolves are pretty much nailed on, but I'd imagine that Leeds and Burnley are probably looking over their shoulders now at us and West Ham, having both lost to two of us respectively in the last 24 hours that that they are going to be nervous now. And I think that's all about, from a Forest point of view. I said this the other day. I think if we can get ourselves to at the halfway point of the season, which I know is still quite a way away. I mean, we talk about the next batch of games. I'm looking all the way up to sort of the end of Christmas, New Year, which takes us to halfway. If we can be on sort of 19, 20 points come halfway mark, and then you think actually looking into the second half of the season, surely we're not going to have as bad a spell as we had at the start of this season. So then you're looking at minimum 40 points, possibly mid 40s, which is obviously comfortable relative safety, and probably, I don't know, 14th place, something like that, which feels like if you offered any of us now 45 points, I'm sure we'd snap your hand off. So yeah, a massive moment. Hopefully we look back on it come the end of the season as being a really pivotal win and one that sort of turned the tide and got us heading in the right direction.
I don't want to ask a negative question, Bally, but I mean, Leeds were terrible. Is there anything in it that you think actually everyone who's played, Leeds are going to lose a lot of away games the way they played? Are you going to rain on our parade a bit and say, yeah, Leeds are rubbish and it doesn't mean as much, or not?
No, I think Leeds were poor, but you still have to beat the team that's put in front of you. And in the Premier League, this is a game that I was quite surprised that Leeds didn't really approach it in a different way, because they came and didn't really lay a glove on Forest. And if you're a Leeds fan and you're looking at away games where, okay, Ellen Road, we're going to pick up points, but in away games, you'd look and go, okay, well, the way Forest season's going at the minute, this might be a game where, we can go and get 3 points here. No, I don't think it's like raining on the parade. I think Forest were good value. There was some excellent sort of individual performances that we'll come on to. I think the only thing that concerns me, and it reminded me during the game, is first of all, the shot conversion down at 6% before the game, and the no clean sheets this season. I think those two things, granted Forest have scored 3 goals today, so that's probably increased that statistic, but no clean sheets, given what Forest success was built on last season with the 13 clean sheets, Matt Sells getting a share of the Golden Glove. I think that's where I'd be a little bit sort of, okay, let's just kind of pause a little bit. There's still a lot of work to do. But in terms of a performance, a 90-minute performance, I think there's way more positives than negatives to take from that game. And like you said, into a 2-week period now where Sean Dyche can work with his players. I know there'll be a few on internationals, but it really gives him a couple of weeks to kind of get his methods into the players and really start to get hold of this team and mould it into a Sean Dyche team, because yes, he's known for keeping teams in the Premier League, but he's done way more than that at Burnley. So yeah, it's a much needed win, and yeah, let's focus on the positives, Matt. Let's not try and rain on this parade here.
I know. You're right. Thanks very much for being to Queen's member for 20 months. Appreciate that. 530 people with us, which is great. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. Thanks very much to Alex. I assume this is Alex, age 8, Anna, who's saying that Omari Hutchinson was amazing, and we will definitely come on to him, I'm sure. Well, going back to the team selection, though, Paul, interesting that Sangare came in for Louise, and who was the other change? Oh, Dominguez playing as a winger. What did you make of it? Was it too conservative when you saw it, or were you happy?
No, I was quite content with it. I thought that it was kind of a bit of a hybrid one. I mean, Dominguez was obviously the key, wasn't it? In terms of, in possession, he's going to push out and provide the width. And actually, he was floating across both sides of the pitch, and it worked quite well. It kept the Leeds defenders sort of on their toes as to where he was going to be. And then out of possession, you slot back into a 4-3-3 with him making up a 3-man midfield and Morgan sort of drifting out wide. Covering, making it 4-3-3. So, I thought, given the personnel that was available, obviously, I think if Hudson-Odoi had been fit and able to start, he probably would have done. I know we'll come on to Hutchinson and the impact that he had. I guess he's still sort of earning Dyche's trust a little bit. So, no, I had no problem with the team. I thought it was, set up basically to make sure that we had a solid base in the game, and depending on obviously how Leeds set up, which we knew, as Belly said, they didn't really come and look to take the game to Forest. So from that perspective, I thought the balance was right, but also the subs were right when the subs were made, given the game situation. And I think that was always, he had Hutchinson and he had that in his locker, and he used it at the perfect time. So yeah, I think all round, both the starting 11 and the subs that were made were spot on.
Did you like the way we started the game, Belly? I can't remember when Perry made that save. It looked amazing from where I was, miles away. I don't know if that was at 0-0 or 1-0 down, but did you like how we started the match or not?
Yeah, I did. I think up until the Leeds goal, I think Forest started the game excellently well. Gibbs-White cuts inside on his right foot, tries to bend one in the bottom corner. I think that's 2 minutes in. The Perry save that's 11 minutes in. That's just before Leeds went down the other end and scored. Now, as a goalkeeper, that's the worst thing. You know, when you pull a worldie and then you see the flag up for offside. So I really did feel for him there. That's honestly, that's an incredible save. The double save there. But then within a minute, Leeds go up the other end, and the goal's disappointing. The ball's not won in midfield. Savona's man gets across the front of him. The issue that I have is as that ball gets played to Mecha and Williams is defending him. So as a goalkeeper, I want my defenders to keep him outside the box. So you understand you can't get too tight too soon because wingers are tricky, strikers are tricky. But as Williams retreats, he allows Mecha to come into the box, and then it's an unbelievable finish. Like Sells can do nothing with it, but fair play to Forest after that. You climb off the canvas and within sort of 2 or 3 minutes you go down the other end and Forest are level. But yeah, like I said, it reminded me of the Brentford game that I went to. Forest started excellently well, looked on the front foot, and the possession stats were interesting because Leeds ended up having more possession in the game, but Forest did way more with the ball and looked by far the most likely team to go and win the game, which they did. But yeah, really positive start from Forest. I think it was high energy, was really good.
Victoria Esposito, thank you very much. $15. Well, people are generous tonight. You can tell we've won, so appreciate that. Is that the kind of goal, Belly, that teams concede when they're low on confidence then?
What, the Leeds goal?
The Leeds goal before we get to our goal, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to sort of to blame it on confidence because any goal you look at and you break down the individual errors, you can trace it back 4 or 5 sort of passages of play to where it's come from. I think the fact that it's Leeds only shot on target in the first half. Well, it's only shot in the first half, and Forest have 10 shots in the first half, which is the most they've had in a Premier League game this season. To go in, obviously, at 1-1, I think Forest are a bit sort of aggrieved there. But no, look, it's credit to the lad. It's a great finish. He finds the bottom corner, but the main thing is that Forest got straight back in the game, equalised relatively quickly, and that sort of settled any nerves that would have been in the stadium, because Forest fans could have been thinking, oh God, here we go. The longer it stays at 1-0, gets towards half time, fans can get dissenting maybe, and players, that's when the nerves will start to kick in as players. When you're at home, you're losing to a team that you should be beating, you realise the importance of the game. Fans are on the phone looking half an hour in, we're only on 6 points here, Leeds are pulling away from us, and that's when it could start to change a little bit. But no, that was the important thing, getting back on terms straight away.
Just before, I'll go to Paul in 1 second because I want to talk about Sangare in detail. I thought he was very good, but he got the goal, Belly. What was your breakdown of it? I've not seen any highlights or anything. I was 50 yards away, or at least. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so it's great. It's great work from Ndoye. So ball down the right side, and for me, I thought Dan Ndoye was excellent today. I thought it was one of his best performances in a Forest shirt. I thought he stretched the game well. I thought he carried the ball well. I thought he was a real threat throughout, really, and cuts back in, plays the ball sort of in that area. The cliche is the corridor of uncertainty that's kind of inside in between the goalkeeper and the retreating defenders. Now, Lucas Perry's position, he has to advance towards the near post because it's a narrow cross. We spoke about this on a podcast before. If the ball's wide and it's close to the touch line, you can be sort of central in your goal because you don't have to defend that near post space. But as Ndoye steps inside, Perry advances to the near post, and it's a really difficult one because if you watch, Dominguez gets across him. So as he dives to his right, Dominguez is in his eye line. As a goalkeeper, then you're just hoping that parry or deflection that you get on the ball just falls to one of your lads, and you can question marking from Leeds and recovering runners whether they're picking up in the box efficiently enough. But as a goalkeeper, it's one of them. You throw your body at it, you get a hand on it. Could he have got a stronger hand on it? Probably, but we're clutching at straws here. I think as a goalkeeper, you're just hoping that it falls to one of your defenders. But even then, Sangare has a little bit of time to think about it. It's still a clever finish because he sees Perry getting up, getting across. He keeps it on the floor. Nice calm finish there, and yeah, like I said, you come on to Paul, but Sangare was excellent.
Yeah, let's talk more about Sangare just the other side of the break. Thanks to Trent Nav as ever, and here is what you get on match days at the Nav.
Hey up me duckies, a quick rundown of match days at the Big Shed. We're open from 10, serving full English breakfast, teas, coffees, and believe it or not, beers. Father's Footy Quiz is followed by the lunchtime kickoffs, and the outdoor kitchen is fired up from midday, serving sourdough pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, pies and sausage rolls. Lovely. Pints start at £4. We have a great selection of cask ales and lagers to lubricate the vocal cords for a bit of a sing-song before the game. After the match, we've got some great DJs and live bands booked. So get your send down to the Trent Nav. Win or lose, we're having a booze. And if we draw, we'll have some more.
Right, Sangare, Paul. I thought he was really good. One of his best halves for us. So you've got an opportunity here now to do a typical Sangare thing with fans and say you thought he was rubbish, but I suspect you're not going to.
No, I thought he was good. I said this the other night. I thought he was. I know Dicey sort of said it after his game. I thought Sangare had a good game on Thursday night as well. I know people were saying that he was too sideways and backwards and wasn't forward enough. I know he had a couple of misplaced passes in the first half, and don't want to dwell too much on Thursday. But no, today I thought he was excellent. And actually, I backed him to score on Thursday. I very, very rarely do I bet on football matches, and I noticed I had a free bet going, and I put a few quid on him to score in Graz, which obviously he didn't do. I just went a few days too early, but yeah, just fancied him to get on the score sheet sooner rather than later. I'm thinking of the way that Dyche teams sort of playing. Obviously, we've talked before a little bit about how he's similar to Decore or Idrissa Gana Gay, that sort of mould of player who often popped up with a goal under Dyche at Everton. So yeah, I felt that Sangare was not far away from scoring his first goal, and obviously that was just an element of his performance today. I think again, taking him off at the right time. Obviously he'd been booked. That was a smart move. There's one moment, wasn't there, after he got booked, where he was sort of tracking a run back, and you could see his brain was ticking over, thinking, "Don't dive in," and he didn't. So again, credit for that. But yeah, no, I thought he was solid. His passing was good. He was shut off the passing lanes quite a lot for Leeds, and we talk about how Leeds weren't great, but part of that is him doing his job and not allowing them to get a foothold in the game. So yeah, I thought it was a good performance from him. He deserved his place in the team after Thursday, and it'd be interesting. I'm pretty sure next game away at Liverpool, likelihood is we're going to probably pack the midfield, so we're probably going to see him again start that game, I'd imagine.
It's interesting, but I think that's the first league game he started under Dyche. In fact, I'm sure it is. He hasn't really backed him. He's backed Yates over him. So what did he do today that you think Dyche will have liked? What's he looking for in that midfield role from him?
Scored.
He
gets on. No, I think Sangare. Yeah, I was worried like Paul when he was tracking back, and I thought it was a shoe-in for a second yellow there. But I think when you've got Dominguez in that role and you haven't got a traditional winger, Dominguez worked really well on that left side, was allowed to float, was allowed to roam, the energy, the legs that he works with for Williams to get down the side. And then I just think you need a bit of steel in that midfield. And I think what he probably did with the Ryan Yates inclusion over past games is, look, you know what, like, I'll get my skipper on the pitch. I'll get him talking, get him, obviously local lad, kind of means more to him, I guess, maybe. But with Sangare today, I thought he was, he broke up play well. Like I said, he's in there with Elliot. Elliot is obviously a fantastic player. Elliot can distribute the ball. Elliot can be the ball carrier. But Sangare in there, like I said, there was a lot of people. I went through the comments and said that people were saying he was deserving of keeping his place after the other night. So yeah, I think Dyche has stuck with him there, and yeah, I thought he was, like I said, excellent.
Dominguez getting a lot of love in the chat, Paul. Actually, I remember, I think we've said it quite a few times, Sangare plays well when Dominguez is in the team and they can sort of interlink.
Yeah.
But at half-time, I didn't think they needed both on the pitch. So Dyche was in a tough spot there, wasn't he? Because they were both playing well, but I didn't feel like we were offering, in the ground, it felt like we weren't offering a huge amount between about 30 minutes and 45 going forwards. Did it feel like that or not?
Yeah, it did. It did. There was a number of times where we had opportunity, and again, might well come from Sangare breaking up play, giving it to Morgan, and then he's on the half turn. You look forward, and actually there was few options ahead of him. And that's where the likes of Hutchinson or another winger being on the field would have made a difference, perhaps, and obviously ultimately did. But no, I think I text you at half time. If it's still level after 60 minutes, get Hutchinson on, probably for Dominguez. And I think again, Dominguez obviously played 90 minutes on Thursday without a huge amount of football in the weeks before. So again, it was probably always likely to be a 60-minute stint from him today. And I think again, knowing that, if Dyche knows that he's got 60 minutes in him, then actually, that's all well and good to start him alongside Sangare and get that solidity. Because I know we talked about how important it was to win today, but it was bloody crucial we didn't lose. And again, it's that whole 60 minutes, make sure you're secure, and then you've got your weapons on the bench, which we used. And like I say, from a game plan point of view, if that was the game plan to be solid for 60 minutes, and then and then go for it, then it worked out perfectly. So Dominguez, I think, is going to have a big part to play under Dyche. He feels like a Dyche kind of player, full of energy, closing down, pressing. So I'm sure in the weeks ahead, again, thinking back to thinking ahead to the Liverpool game, maybe we even see all four of them. Sangare, Dominguez, Yates, and Anderson all start that game. Possibly similar setup to, we think, when we did their one last year, we went with the box midfield. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how we set up at Liverpool in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, pleased for Dominguez. Always been a fan of his, and good to see him getting minutes and getting fitness in his legs, even if it was sort of not ideally in his best position today and he was playing that floating role. But actually, again, he showed the value of being able to do that really well.
Do you think the team's partly sectors as well, Belly, with the bench in mind? No Wood, no Bakwa, no Hudson-Odoi. Callum Wendo and McAtee struggled to different degrees in the week. McAtee was decent, actually, I think. But is he looking at it and thinking, well, if I start with Hutchinson, what am I going to have to bring on?
Maybe. I think listening to his post-match press conference, he mentioned about Hutchinson and the impact that he had. And what I thought was interesting about, and it got a bit of an insight into Dyche's managerial skills. He said he had a chat with Hutchinson yesterday and said, look, you're still in your Premier League infancy. You're still learning as a footballer. And I think as a player, that'd be really pleasing to hear. So your manager's speaking to you, explaining, look, you're going to be on the bench tomorrow, but this is the role I see you playing. He's probably said to him, look, 60 minutes, game dependent, said we can turn to you. And then Hutchinson's got 30 minutes with no pressure to go and just express himself. And now there'll be clamour for him to start the next game because it was an excellent performance when he came on. But Dyche, his substitutions were excellent in the sense that he brought Yates on to keep solidity in that midfield. Awoniyi up there was excellent when he came on, and then Hutchinson as well. But Hutchinson's coming on when a defence is tiring and is in that sort of, like I said, 60 to 90 minute period in the game. And the last thing you want as a left back is Omari Hutchinson coming on, and a tricky winger who is a good ball player, also quick, moves the ball really well. But yeah, I thought he was excellent, and with the squad that he's got, it's a big plus point this year, and something that probably Forest didn't have last year. Forest probably had a strong sort of 13, 14, 15, whereas now, when everyone's fit, you look at players that have missed out, like you said, Wood, Callum Hudson-Odoi, etc. Forest have got a really good squad to choose from now, and they're going to need that going into the heavy Christmas period, the European campaigns, the Cup campaigns, because Forest will want to go far in the Europa League. They'll back themselves to do that. And again, in the FA Cup is a competition that Forest can go and win. So, yeah, it's about using your squad, and credit to Sean Dyche. He's made those changes at the right time, and like you said, they've linked up and been good value for a goal.
Yeah, especially when that left back, Paul, ends up being Jack Harrison as well that you're up against. I mean, quid's in there, aren't you, really, when they're chasing the game like that?
Yeah, well, I think what he showed the value of when he came on Hutchinson, you think about the two goals that he was involved with. He showed the value of him cutting back inside and swinging in an in-swinging cross for Morgan to head in, and then for the penalty, he went on the outside. And we've been talking a lot this season about how we want our wingers to attack the fullbacks and not stop and play it backwards. And he showed, that he can go both ways, and that it's got to be a nightmare for a fullback, particularly a makeshift one like you're saying, Harrison, and B, one that's that's 60 minutes in. I think Harrison came on, didn't he, fairly fresh. But at the same time, even if it's a winger that's been on for 60 minutes, if you know that the guy that's up against you can go both ways and produce quality, then that's a real headache. So that's a great attribute that he's got in his locker and been able to do that, and for him to have a positive impact doing both of those things today. I think Dyche is just going to say, look, give me more of that, and I'm pretty sure, I know we're talking about Premier League today, but I'm pretty sure come January when we reshuffle the Europa League squad, assuming we're still in that competition, it'll be a part of that going forward as well.
So would you do, just in the next 6 weeks or so, Belly, with Hutchinson, if you're Dyche, you don't throw him in the team necessarily. It's about a question of man management, saying, actually, you might do another 30 minutes or so here and there still.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a 2-week break before the next game. Now, for me, any one of those players that started that game today, if they get bought out the side, I think they'd feel a little bit aggrieved, because if you're starting in a game and the team wins, it's, as a manager, it's usually same team again. So I could see that, whether it be because it's Liverpool away, he may make changes. I doubt Hutchinson will start. I think, like you said, I think over the next 6 weeks, I think it'll be, look, produce these little cameos, show us what you can do when you come onto the pitch, add to your assist tally, get a couple of goals, and then when he's ready, I think as a manager, that's your skill to know when a player is ready to start. And I think it won't be long before he is a starter if he keeps performing like that. But with young players, particularly young players that are still learning the level, I think there's going to be inconsistencies. So there will be times when he come on, he may not affect the game. Whereas today, everything kind of seemed to work for him. He'll take great confidence from that, and now it's just how Dyche manages him and the other young boys. Like you said, McAtee, still a young boy learning the level. So yeah, he'll play a huge part this season for Forest. It's just how that looks over the next 6 weeks. I would anticipate it being more the cameo roles before he gets thrown in from the start.
I'll throw one more at you about this then, because I was listening to City on the way back. Andy Robertson versus Omari Hutchinson is an interesting battle, but you're still leaving it till 60 minutes or so, Belly. You're not doing it from the start then?
Yeah, I would not at Anfield. I think the Forest going to Anfield, you would take a point if it was offered now, and I think it will be more a game plan of being defensively secure to hit teams on the break. Now, Dan and Doyle would stretch the game. Like I said, I thought from his part, he was excellent today. I wouldn't start Hutchinson. Like you said, if it gets to 60, 70, 80 minutes, Forest are 1-0 down, need a goal, 1-1 maybe, and he wants to chase the game, then yeah, I think by all means throw him in. But in terms of the magnitude of that game, I think he'll go more tried and trusted and players in that game.
Chris Aylmer, thank you very much. You don't need to give me money, but love to see a picture of you with your saintly wife, who puts up with a lot when you come in on this pod all the time. But thank you for the €11.99. A bit at the end there, Paul, teeing us up nicely. Good to see Morgan score again too. 2 home games, 2 headers, 2 late arrivals in the box. I've said this before, but he can develop a real knack for this, can't he?
Yeah, he can. I mean, I remember when he played, I mean, going back a couple of years now, when he was in the England under-21 squad that won the Euros that summer, he was playing sort of as a false 9 and scored a couple of headers in that tournament with similar sort of runs that we saw today, arriving in the box from crosses and getting his head on the ball, and obviously did it twice now in a row in home games. So we know that Morgan is as most players are, a confidence player, and he's a real bellwether in terms of what kind of Forest you're going to get. We know that if Morgan has a good game, generally the team has a good result, and it's been a struggle for him this season. I think we all acknowledge that. He was getting quite a lot of criticism for his performance on Thursday, I think, and it almost feels like after he missed that penalty on Thursday, the rest of the game was almost trying a bit too hard to make up for it. But yeah, today I thought he wasn't massively involved before the game. Like I said, there's a few situations where he had the ball and he had the opportunity to get us on the front foot and get us on the break, but actually there was probably a lack of options in front of him, given the personnel that was on the pitch at the time. But yeah, it looks, I'm sure we all know scoring goals is going to breed confidence, and the more that you can get on the end of crosses like that, or just even penalties or whatever kind of goal it is, it's going to breed confidence. And I think him not going away for England for the next 2 weeks is a real benefit for us, a real plus that he's going to be in and around the group with Dyche on the training field for the next fortnight, rather than being away and playing 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there for England, or not getting on at all, which has kind of been a bit of a waste when he's gone away for the last couple of camps. So I think that hopefully today is signals a bit of a turning point, not just for the team, but for Morgan as well. And as I said, if he can get into a vein of form now in the next batch of games, then I think that will bode well and we'll get results.
Yeah, what do you think about Morgan from a neutral point of view, Belly? He left out the England squad. You could say that's a kick up the arse to get him going, or it's another, grinding him into the dirt a little bit more in a tough season. What did you make of his overall play today, not just the goal?
I think out of possession, it was interesting, particularly in the first half with the rotation between Morgan and Jesus up top, because more often than not, it was Morgan Gibbs-White that was Forest furthest forward player, that was pressing the back four, pressing the goalkeeper, and with legs and energy. And I think in terms of his performances, look, Morgan Gibbs-White is one of Forest's most influential, if not the most influential player in that team. I'd say it's Elliot, but I think after Elliot, I think you're probably looking at Morgan Gibbs-White. And I think had Forest have started the season better, I think he'd definitely be in all these England camps. But I think he's probably suffering from a team that's lacked a bit of attacking creativity this season, that's lacked goals, that's lacked that bit of impetus, and I think if that comes back, and we will then start to see the best of Morgan Gibbs-White. I thought today, when he was involved, there was one in the first half when he's carrying the ball, and I don't think there's many options in front of him, but he gets swarmed by players, and he tries to play to Ndoye on the right, and he buys a foul and gets Forest up the pitch. So there's moments in the game where he's still impacting, and look, he's another goal for him is going to do his confidence the world of good. As a player, being sort of depends how Thomas Tuchel's handled it. Whether Thomas Tuchel spoke to him and said, "Look, you're not going to be in the squad for X, Y, Z reasons. You're still in our plans," block, and giving it that spiel, or whether it will affect him a little bit not being called up. I don't know. I've never been fortunate enough to be in that situation, to be called up for your country, but. Look, he's an outstanding, talented footballer. Over these next 2 weeks, the players will have, I imagine there'll be a 3 or 4 day block where they can go away. And I think it will probably do him good. Go away, get back, have a week solid training leading up to the Liverpool game, and kick on now for the next few months. Because look, when he's on song, Forest are a much better team.
Do you not play England C? I'm sure you.
I did. I played England.
You've been called up for your country. Don't do yourself down. I know it's not the same, but yeah.
No, yeah, I did. We played the Czech Republic under-21s at Woking back in 2013. Yeah, there's some decent names in that. Andre Gray played in that. A few names there. Joe Lolly, ex-Forest, played in that. It's not a full England camp.
No, but I knew you had. I thought I remembered that.
Did you play with? Did you play with Jamal Lowe? It was a bit after he played England C, didn't he? He's
a lot younger than me.
Yeah, so I know he used to be at my local Hampton and Richmond when he got called up for England C. But sorry, we digress.
Well, you see, there's me piling a compliment on, and then there's you, Paul, reminding him how old he is. But there you go. Never mind. Just talk us through that goal, Belly, and I'm gonna try and get you to do some analysis as we've been discussing of Dyche's attack in general, but that plan to get the ball swung in for Gibbs-White, we're getting more balls in the box. What did you make of it? And is that a deliberate tactic to get the ball in more, do you think?
I think so. I think especially if you get in Morgan advanced and sort of playing as almost a shadow striker, playing off the front man. But look, it's an incredible switch of play to start with. And then Hutchinson, little touch inside. And what helps Gibbs-White is because Hutchinson's coming back onto his left foot, is that in-swinging delivery, which makes it really difficult for the keeper, because if a player's cutting back onto the left foot from your left-hand side and it's going to be an in-swinger, as that ball's travelling, first of all, you've got to be sure that it's not going to go in at the back post. And we've all seen those goals where that ball gets delivered from sort of even wider than the Hutchinson one, 30, 40, 50 yards out, and it bends in. Strikers are running across the front. No one touches it. The keeper ends up diving and it goes in at the back post. So they're really difficult to deal with because, first of all, you've got to protect the trajectory of the ball to make sure you're dealing with that correctly. But then you've also got to be aware that someone could get their head on it. And Gibbs-White really good glance at. I actually thought it was a Wanye that had put the ball in when it first went in. But yeah, really good header from Gibbs-White. As a goalkeeper, they're really difficult to deal with, those flat swung-in balls. And all he's got to do is get the faintest of touches on it and just knock it in at the back stick. But yeah, really, from a goalkeeper's perspective, really difficult ones to deal with. They are.
And the penalty, Paul, again, I haven't seen anything back. I mean, it looked a nailed-on penalty, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. For me, it was. It was. He just got ahead of his man. Like I said, this was one where he went on the outside, and one before was went on the inside, and got the better of his fullback, used his pace, got into the area. Harrison sort of cut across him, and again, it was one of those where you clip the legs, and he was taken out. And the only sort of wasn't it part of the debate was whether the first contact was just outside the area, but I think from the angles that they showed, it was pretty much on the line / just inside. So it was one of those where they didn't have enough evidence to go against the referee's on-field decision. But yeah, that was a definite penalty. I mean, they were talking at half time about one in the first half where ball was played over the top and Jesus was sort of grappling with the centre back and had his arms around him and stuff. For me, there was nothing in that. It wasn't enough for a penalty, but the one that was given was definitely a penalty. I think it was the first penalty we've got all season in the league. So yeah, again, that's probably symptomatic of not having a huge amount of threat in the box. But yeah, no, definite penalty for me, and really nice to see Anderson dispatch it in such a confident way as well. And he's in my fantasy team, so that was even more welcome.
Oh, don't talk to me about fantasy team. I can't even check my score. It's horrific this week. I haven't got anyone who's done well. One more for you, Paul, from a fan point of view. I don't know if they showed it on TV, but Dan and Doyle looked like he really wanted to take the penalty, and Yates had to step in and say, Elliot's taking this. I don't really like that particularly, but it's because partly maybe they should decide on the pitch or in the dressing room or not. I don't know, but are you bothered by that or not?
Didn't really see that. We didn't get that sort of conversation on the cameras. I don't think, or if we did, I didn't see it. I mean, for me, as soon as the penalty was given, my mind went to last year's penalty shootouts in the cup games, and I was like, it's either going to be Nico or it's going to be Anderson. I think Nico missed at Brighton when I was there; he blazed it over. So I think Anderson's penalties were all really well dispatched. So for me, it was always going to be Anderson. I guess Ndoye wanted to take it. I guess that's a good sign. People want to be putting their hands up and they want to be putting the names forward to take penalties and get on the score sheet. But I think, yeah, obviously in hindsight, that Yates definitely did the right thing. But even just regardless of what would happen, I think Anderson was definitely next man up. And I think you're right. They probably would have had a hierarchy in the dressing room, or you hope they would have. If Morgan's not on the pitch, Anderson should be taking it. And arguably, after what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 days, if they're both on the pitch next time we get one, then chances are, well, I would certainly like to see Anderson step up and take the next one.
Oh, I would as well. I felt really much more confident with Anderson taking it. Not a slight on Morgan, particularly for fair play stepping up, but yeah, Anderson feel more confident. I said I didn't like it. I just had visions of, was it Nicholas Jackson and Madueke for Chelsea? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything like that. It was just if people didn't see it, but
no, I did have that in my notes. I did see there was like a brief bit from one of the angles in the background. You saw Ndoye with the ball and Elliot with him, and you only saw it for a couple of seconds, and it just sort of triggered in my mind. I was like, oh, has there been? But look, you've got two players wanting to take a penalty. You'd like to think before the game, it's like you said, there's a list in the dressing room of who's taking the penalty, but there was no dramas, no on-field sort of visible kind of arguments or anything. So I don't think there's anything in that.
No, just on the penalty. I mean, you'll have faced them. Talk to us about that penalty, the quality of it. Is that Perry can't do anything when he goes like that, can he, Belly?
No, I think from Elliot's run-up was quite central, so almost a straight run-up with the ball. So as a goalkeeper, you're thinking one of two things. He's either really faking this straight run-up, and at the last minute he's going to open his body up and put it to my left, but the natural way for him to do it is, if it's a straighter run up, the angle of your body is to go across the keeper to the keeper's right hand side. So I think Perry's probably tried to outthink him there, but yeah, great penalty from him. And I think even if he goes the right way, he probably doesn't save that. But yeah, really good penalty.
Dylan's been on this podcast a couple of times. Thanks for signing up, Dylan Mapetoff, for being a member. Appreciate that. How did you rate the way we managed the game, Belly, at 2-1 up? Did we do a good job, or did we look in trouble at all to you?
Not really. I think I was sort of trying to pay attention to Matt Sells throughout the game, and I didn't really think he had a lot to do. There was one moment about an hour in when a corner came in, it was lofted in. There was a bit of a hesitancy to come out. But apart from that, he made a really good save from Dan James in that sort of 2-1 period. Dan James just come on, cut inside onto his left foot, gets a strong right hand on it. But apart from that, I don't really remember feeling like Forest were in any danger. Like I just felt that Forest would go on to win the game, get the penalty that sort of makes it secure. But no, I don't think Forest did anything particularly wrong. Like the natural sort of way a game progresses, if you're winning 2-1, the other team's going to be in the ascendancy. There's going to be a bit more urgency. You are naturally going to sit a little bit deeper. That's how football's kind of played out. But no, I don't feel like there was any worries really, anything sort of majorly wrong. Like I said, he's bought Morata one late on to shore it up a little bit more. But no, like I said, I thought Leeds was really disappointed in Leeds. I've not really seen much of them this season, so it's the first time I've kind of really sat and watched them. But I thought they'd have a bit more, like I said, have a bit more of a go and a bit more bite about them. Calvert-Lewin gets that header in between Murillo, which was the only moment really that I thought the two centre-halves got anything wrong. Calvert-Lewin gets behind Murillo, gets the header. It's a comfortable save for Sells. But yeah, apart from that, like I said, I'm clutching at straws. I don't really remember Forest being under any period of extended pressure from Leeds or any sort of worry. And yes, saw the game out relatively stress-free, in my opinion.
It's easy for neutral to say that, isn't it? I was going to say, how did you feel on the ground? Because
if you've got skin in the game, then yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because I think, when we were in that sort of winning habit last year of winning by the odd goal, if this had been midway through last season and we're 2-1 up with 15 minutes to go, I'd have felt really comfortable. But I really didn't feel very comfortable today, just given the context of everything that's happened over the last, 2 or 3 months. It just felt like, oh, come on, just please. Every 2 minutes, I felt myself looking at the clock, wanting it to. It was at 74, wishing it was at 84, and wishing it was at 87, and all the rest of it. So I think from a fan's point of view, even though, as you say, Belly, Leeds didn't really threaten a great deal. You're still with Forest, and given what's happened over the last few months and just being so desperate for the win, it did feel a bit edge of the seat stuff, which is why when the ref gave that penalty, the feeling of euphoria was pretty immense.
It's just set pieces, Paul, wasn't it? You look at, Anton Stack, who took a corner, and I would have had him in the middle because he's absolutely massive. But, they're bringing bigger and bigger physically players on. Pirro's big. I'm not seeing him in person before. And then Dan James is quick. I wonder why he didn't start. But we defended set pieces a lot better, didn't we, today?
We did. No, to be fair, we did. I mean, the one that you talk about there, where Sells made the save, I think that came from a set piece, and Doy, instead of just whacking it clear, tried to sort of take a touch and bring it out clear, and he sort of lost it, and it went to James, and he cut inside and had that shot. But by and large, we did defend set pieces a lot better. You could argue that their delivery set piece wise wasn't as threatening as we faced recently. I think our delivery still leaves quite a bit to be desired, if I'm honest. There was a number of set pieces we had, and we didn't really look like we were going to be a threat. And I'm sure that, again, coming up in the next 2 weeks and having time on the training ground, that's going to be something that we work on. But to come back to your question, we did look a lot better on set pieces today, and hopefully that is, again, the more and more that Dyche gets time on the grass with the guys, that's going to be something which manifests itself as we go through the weeks and games that go by, that we're going to hopefully start conceding less and less from set piece situations.
I see people in the chat talking about Anderson and January and all that kind of stuff. We'll do that tomorrow with more analysis, but I can't see us selling him. I think we'd be risking too much to sell him now, personally. Just on one thing on Sells, and like I say, we'll try and get you on in the week, Belly, to do more analysis. When he didn't come for that high ball, which everyone in the ground was screaming for him to do, is that a worry for you of his headspace or anything like that, or not?
No, I think it's easy. So when you're dealing with high balls in the box, they're extremely difficult to deal with, because first of all, you're following the path of the ball, so your eyes are on the ball, but at the same time you're kind of having a quick glance to see what's in front of you. So in those scenarios, you're going to see a lot of bodies in front of you, so you end up, we've all seen that scenario where goalkeepers are coming to punch the ball, there's traffic in front of them trying to reach over the top for a punch or a catch or anything, and you don't end up getting anywhere near it. You take yourself out of position at the goal, and first and foremost your job is to stay and protect the goal. So it was more. I think it was more the fact that he took a step forward, then back, and then took another step forward, and then stopped. I think that was a bit in the ground. I can see why you get that that kind of intake of breath. I think because of the body language. But in terms of should he come for it, should he not? I think staying and not getting involved, letting your defenders deal with that was fine. It was more just the indecision moment. But then what didn't really help was because he's then caught the ball, he's tried to distribute it quickly. The ball ends up going out of play. I think it is a poor touch from Ndoye. But do you know what I mean? From that point, after that instance, I'd be like, okay, it's calm. Let's just kind of take a breath, sort of manage the game a little bit more. But again, I'm clutching at straws with him. He didn't have a lot to do, but from what he did, what I saw today, I thought he was absolutely fine.
Good. Right, we'll do man of the match the other side of this break. So have a quick think about it, chaps. Drop your man of the match in the comments as well. 600 people with us. Do hit like if you haven't already. And thank you very much to Nottingham Window Company, second sponsors of these weekend post-match shows. If you're looking for new windows or doors in the East Midlands, click the link in the description. You can see what they have to offer. And as I will vouch for them because they did my windows and doors. And thanks very much to those guys as ever. Right, man of the match, Paul Morley. Who are you saying?
Yeah, just before we come on to that and just talking about sales, did you see the tweet in the midweek from FIFA that John Victor's up for the top goalkeeper of the year award?
I think he is. I checked it.
He was in there. He was in. There's a picture. He was right in the middle of the graphic.
Yeah. But then I looked on the website and he wasn't on the list.
Okay, he was. I saw the graphic that he was on. I was going to say if based on what we saw on Thursday night, Belly might have a shout for being that next year, given what we saw from Victor on Thursday. But yeah, no, man of the match. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Sangare before. I thought he had a really good 60 minutes. Obviously, Anderson, as ever, complete performance. Obviously, rounded it off with a goal. Williams was dependable as ever. But I think if you're talking about who made the biggest impact on the game, I think I'd be inclined to, and I know he's only on the field for 33, 32 minutes, whatever it was, but I think Hutchinson played such a key part in turning the game today that I'd be inclined to give it to him.
Yeah. God, I'm really interested to hear Billy's answer because do you go for 90-minute man like Elliot, who I thought was really good, or Sangare or Hutchinson? They were my three. Who are you going to say?
I think I'm loath to give it to someone who's played 30 minutes of a game, but for what he offered in those 30 minutes and for the fact that, like Paul said, it made the game safe. Forest fans are in an edgy sort of period, and he played a huge role in both of those goals that ultimately got the 3 points for Forest. I would give it to Hutchinson. Like I said, I really liked, particularly first half, Dan Ndoye. I thought he was excellent. Elliot, I think, as always, but that's the performance you come to expect from him. So yeah, I think in this instance, I would probably go with Hutchinson. Yeah.
It's interesting. Lots of different names in the chat. I can see Milenkovic getting a shout, and Murillo. Yeah, lots of people certainly are. And Dan Ndoye was good, and nowhere near man of the match. Not saying this at all, but I thought Taiwo did a good job when he came on, and it'll be interesting to see who gets the start at Anfield. I suspect it's Igor Jesus or Chris Wood. But yeah, that just a mention for Taiwo, but I agree with everything that the lad said. Right, next batch of games, Paul. It's loading slowly. Here we go. So we've got obviously Liverpool, then we've got Brighton at home, Wolves away, Everton away, Tottenham home, Fulham away, and then it's Man City away. So it feels like a Man City at home. Feels like a decent bracket of 6 or 7 games there. Is this where the tide turns, or have we still got a long rocky road ahead, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I said before, I think we're now 11 games in, so we're 8 games away from halfway through the season. And as I say, if we can target being on 20 points at the halfway point, I think that will be. It doesn't sound like a huge amount, which is 11 points in the next 8 games. Which I say doesn't sound fantastic, but given that we've it's taken us 11 games to get 9, I think that would be that's feels a realistic, achievable goal to get us probably, which if we're on 20 points halfway through the season, we're going to be out of the relegation zone, and we're going to be looking forward to a second half of the season that's hopefully better than the first half, which therefore means hopefully, as I said before, relative safety. So I think that's what we've got to target. It's difficult because I'm sure Belly will say you don't want to look too much beyond the next game, and the next game is as difficult as they come. I know the final was just gone. They got beaten 3-0 today at City. So Liverpool aren't the Liverpool of last season. I think that we've seen that a number of times in the last few weeks, but it's still one of the 3 most difficult fixtures of the season, alongside Arsenal away and City away. So I think we just need to go into that game, as Belly said before, and try and be as solid as possible. And if we end up nicking something, then great. If we don't, no need for a head loss over it. Attention then turns to Brighton, who obviously last season was obviously probably the best performance of the season, 7-0. I don't think that's going to happen again. Obviously, lots of different context, different situation going into the game against Brighton this time, and that will be on the back of hopefully a positive result against Malmo. Again, I think that can't be underestimated either. I know we're talking about Premier League, but actually, let's assume we go and get beat by Liverpool, which I think is probably what 99% of us expect. If we can then back that up with a win at home against Malmo in midweek afterwards, again, that gives some positivity going into the Brighton game. Probably you're going to see again a bit of rotation for that Malmo game. So you'd like to think that we go into the Brighton game with an opportunity to maybe even move out of the drop zone if we get a win in that game, and even if we don't win, but if we take a point there, then we're going to Wolves, who God knows what situation they're going to be in. Probably going to have Rob Edwards in charge by the sounds of it by then, but they're so far adrift. I'd imagine motivating that dressing room is going to be hugely difficult. So you'd think if we can get 4 points, whichever way they come, from the next 3 games, which is Liverpool away, Brighton at home and Wolves away, in the same vein that we've got 4 points from the last 3, and we almost take it in blocks of 3. If we get 4 points from every block of 3 games in the next 8-9 games, that's going to get us to that 20 odd point mark by halfway. So that's, I think, what we've got to be targeting. I think that's achievable given the fixtures you said. We've shown that we can do it in the last 3, so just got to keep that momentum going and perform to that level, I think, for the next month, 6 weeks, and we should be okay.
So the fan mindset, my mindset, Belly, is always what I've just said. These are the next 6 games. How many points can we get? Is that how you view it, or are you very much one game at a time?
I think it's yes. I think that it is more one game at a time and not looking too far ahead. But as a player and as fans, you do find yourself doing that, and you will look at the next block of games and go, "Oh, we've got these tough games coming up, or we've got a game at home where we think we could win, i.e. Leeds at home, and then we've got Liverpool away. So if we don't win at home against Leeds, it sort of amps the pressure up and it builds from there. But I think in terms of the next game, look, Forest won at Anfield last year, so they can take confidence from that. I think in terms of the next sort of few months and how this season plays out, I think there's 3 teams that are worse than Forest at this point, and one of them we saw today, the other's Burnley and the other's Wolves. I think those 3 teams are worse than Forest, so I would imagine that Forest will get more points than them, and I would expect Forest to get more points than a couple of other teams. But I think the European journey is interesting, because I think that will bring a real sort of feel-good factor. I think this European journey that Forest are going to go on this season, hopefully they can go far in that. But ultimately, Forest aren't going to go down, and there's worse teams than Forest this season. The squad, the manager, the backing that the chairman can give the manager in January, if needs be. Again, I'm talking from a financial standpoint. I don't know where they are in terms of PSR and all of that, but in terms of what Forest can do in terms of spending power, I think they can go and add to the squad if they need to. But I think, like I said, that saving grace is come the end of the season, May, whenever it is, there'll be 3 teams that are worse than Forest.
I think so. Let's see what this comment here is. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that. You've given me £5, which was nice because you said about Sean Dyche giving me credit, and we'll do a lot of that tomorrow. Certainly, we'll look back at this bracket. And you're very right. Standing ovation for Stephen Crean was my favourite moment of the day. He went around the pitch at half time, and there was a great reception for all the soldiers as well. So, yeah, a classy day from Forest off the pitch, and good to see Stephen at the match after his heroism of the previous week. Paul, final thoughts then, wrapping up. Leading in a little bit of what John said and a little bit of what Belly said. If we'd lost this game, would you have said, oh, we're definitely not getting relegated? And how are you feeling now after the first bracket of Dyche games versus where we were with Ange?
How would I have felt if we'd lost today? I still would have. I would think I'd hoped that I would have been not too reactionary enough to think that was it and we were going down. But thankfully, I don't have to think about that because we won. Which means, yeah, from the first, I mean, we've had 5 games under Dyche in all competitions, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a defeat. And like I said, if you just think of the 3 Premier League games, a win, a draw, a defeat. If we carry that on for the rest of the season, I know it's really difficult to say in such a microcosm, but compared to where we were under Ange, the last time I was on, I think, was the day that Ange got sacked. So, for the turnaround from there to now and how everything feels is quite significant. So, I think, we should only be feeling positive things. I thought there was a little bit of a unnecessary gripe about the way Thursday went. I thought too many people were sort of quick to judge and call it a load of rubbish and not good enough and all the rest of it. I just think we've got to take gradual steps, baby steps towards getting ourselves to safety. And I think today was more than that, was a big step towards that. So yeah, feeling very positive and looking forward to. I would say looking forward to the international break. I kind of am because now we've won, because we can sort of sort of bask in the comfort of 3 points for a couple of weeks and not have to worry about when the next Forest game is on the horizon, because it's a couple of weeks away. So yeah, feeling good, and it's good to be back on after my 3-week ban after my comments about my anniversary date last time I was on, which was a good thing that we didn't go down the innuendo-strewn road of how best to roast your bird on Sunday afternoon, which could have been the case with succulent breasts and thighs and all that, but thankfully we didn't go there until right at the end. I hope we're back on again before another 3 weeks' time.
I think you might have heard another band there. Not that there was one, but yeah. Belly. God.
I don't really know how to follow that.
I don't know. Well, please don't follow it on the same vein.
No.
Give us some analysis and final thoughts.
No, I think it's like I said at the start. There's so many more positives than negatives to take from that performance today. It was a game that felt, dare I say it, must win, and Forest performed well. Never, again, for me as a neutral, never really looked in too much trouble. 3-1 win, 3 points at home into the international break. It gives Dyche time to work with the players. Anfield's a free hit next week, and then those 3 big games, Brighton, Wolves and Everton, coming up afterwards with the European games. But yeah, it's more, definitely take the positives from it, and I think Forest fans can go into the next couple of weeks very happy.
Certainly can, and we shall be back tomorrow at some point with some people. It's 6:30 on Sunday night, and I still don't know exactly who, but that's how it goes sometimes. If you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, or a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Paul Morley, thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, just one more thing. I promised I'd give a shout out to 2 guys that I met in the NAV before the Porto game, which seems ages ago now. There's a chap called Steve and his son Tom. I think that's right. I think that was their names. Over from Guernsey. Tom came over from Guernsey on a school night. He was obviously going to miss school the next day. So yeah, big dedication from them. Obviously, big Forest fans down in Guernsey, flown up for that game. So yeah, shout out to them. And thanks ever so much for having me on. And hopefully I'll be back again soon.
Happy birthday, Steve Oldham, who I bumped to in the NAV as well today. My daughter kept reminding me to say happy birthday to him after he mentioned it. So yeah, happy birthday, Steve. James Belshaw, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. I'll see you in a few days whenever we get back on. So yeah, all good.
Yes, Belly's going to go through some goals and some defending for us, and very much appreciate that. And we'll have lots of good stuff for the international break, so do join us for that. Hit like before you go. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.